Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's card's going to be a mixture of things. I've got Tiny Halloween from Lawn Fawn, Tiny Text Halloween from Tim Holtz. I have some mini clouds from MFT in the stencil. I have the little pickup from Honeybee. I have birch trees from Lawn Fawn, and I also have the itty bitty pumpkins from Honeybee as well. All the supplies will be below, as you can see. So for this one, I actually wanted to create, we're going to start with the truck, but there's a reason why this truck is in these sort of quite funky colors, shall we say. And I had a lot of issues with this as well. Anyway, moving on. So to put the truck together, it was actually really easy in the end. It took me a minute to work out what piece I needed to cut in what colour, so that I knew where everything fitted as to what colour I wanted to, cut each piece for the layers out. But actually putting it together was really easy. So I have like a lime green for the base, and then I have like a deep purpley colour. These are both Stampin' Up colours. And I then have a grey for these sort of, I'm not a car expert or a truck expert, I don't know what they are. The bit that goes above the tyre. I don't know what that's called. And I have some textured grey cardstock that I thought would look quite cool. Obviously you can't really see the texture on camera. But again, this was really easy to do. And then I have the tyres. And this is pretty cool because it cuts out the like solid piece of the tyre, and then it cuts out like a ring. So it automatically gives it a bit of dimension just by doing that. But then there are these other pieces that will inlay inside. So I cut them out of some silver mirror cardstock. You remember that stuff? I've got loads of it now. And I'm actually really glad. I've got it in gold and silver. It was super inexpensive, and it just, every now and again you need something that needs a silver bit of bling and it works. So putting the silver pieces in, and look at that, I just think it looks so cool. Anyway, so I've got the tires put together, and then there are these teeny tiny little pieces, and they are really tiny dinky little pieces. So yes, there are some tiny pieces that that you sort of use to stick and create this little car, but this truck. But I think it makes a huge difference when you just think about what colours and things like that you want them. So like for me, these turned out they were the silver pieces because they were like the bumpers, I guess. Tail bumper, is that what it's called? I don't know. I told you I'm not a car person. The hardest bit was putting these on, which is the I guess the frames for like the windows and the windshield, windscreen. And so I dragged out a quicker glue pen, but in all fairness, it was almost too much. I couldn't quite work out whether they were supposed to inlay or whether they just sit on top of the edge of the purple cardstock, which I think is what happened. But that was the hardest bit for me, trying to work that one out. But they stuck, and I got them to stick, so that was fine. And any excess glue I will get off with a can't think what it's called, but it looks like a giant rubber thing, and it's for any glue boogers that are lurking. So once the glue dries, you then use that thing. Can't remember what it's called, but you use that thing and you gently rub over the top, and then it just takes off all those like glue boogers. So anyway to say it, I used the quickie glue pen on this is like the crate bit that goes in the back of the truck. I found it didn't really work as well on this, I think because the bottom piece, or the bigger piece, is like a textured cardstock, and it just wouldn't stick properly. So I went back to the old tacky glue. That stuff works really well, so I just went back to that, and job done. It straight away was fine. So I just got that last piece stuck on there as well. My cat was all over my desk at this point as well, so between the glue and my cat, he's only 5 months old, but he's driving us insane at the moment. He's the most lovable thing ever, but yeah, he just has moments. So these are the itty bitty pumpkins, and it does emboss some lines so that you can see the you know, it gives it some extra dimension on the pumpkins. So I cut it out of the orange pieces out of some Mango Melody, I think is the Stampin' Up cardstock. I think I remember the colour. And then some brown texture cardstock for like the stalks. And then from that tiny Halloween, I actually used this more than I thought I was going to on this card. And I am using these 3 little eyes. I know, eyeballs, like evil eyes. So I put them on the pumpkins. I thought, why not? It's Halloween. So this is not a fun kind of Halloween. I mean, it is fun, but it's like, this is more on the evil side. So there is like the little ghost in this stamp set. It's got like a smiley face on it, and I was going to use that somewhere, and I thought, nah, that don't work because these pumpkins are miffed about something. So I thought that ain't going to work in this scene. But it's just so cute. And because the images are so tiny, including this little spider, I thought that works really well for tiny areas that you might want to add just a little something. So if you didn't want this, like the web coming down on the spider, you could just ink the spider itself, and that would work just fine. So two things I want to do today. One is, this is some Night of Navy cardstock that I'm going to use some milled lavender Distress Oxide ink over the top of with the cloud stencil from MFT. And I temporarily closed my card base. This is the card base, as opposed to like normally I'll ink and do whatever, you know, create the scenery or whatever it is that I'm doing on a separate piece and then attach that to a card base. But because of what I don't think I've even said about what inspired this whole card process today, which I nearly threw away, I know, shocking, is it's so big that I didn't want to then have another layer of cardstock on top. So I thought, I'm going to try this. The thing to bear in mind is that you can't add too much because I was going to splatter the background and all sorts. And I thought, actually, you don't want to add too much moisture because this is your card front as well as your card base. So that's just something to bear in mind when you're doing it straight, or you're creating your scene straight onto the front of your card. Saves a layer of cardstock, but it's because I actually have a leftover piece from a card I made earlier this year, also Halloween card, where I used the House Builder, the Haunted House add-on from Honeybee Stamps, and I used half the house. So I've had half this house sat on my desk for forever. And so I decided that I needed to do something with it. I couldn't throw it away. I nearly did, but I couldn't. So I'm using some brushed corduroy around the edge of the card base and also around the edge of all the other pieces once I got them sort of sorted out, because again I lost a bit of footage or something, camera died. So this is the other half of the house that I'd already prepped, so hence the colours of the truck as well, because it's the same colour. I happen to have enough scrap pieces to make the same colour truck to match the house. I mean, why not, hey? So that's the other half of that house that I made in the previous video. It's in my Halloween 2021 playlist if you want to check it out. And I think it's a graveyard scene or something like that. I can't remember now. But I also cut out the birch trees in black cardstock, and I actually inked them with the brushed corduroy, which I know you can't see on camera, but you can actually see the difference in card colour in real life. So I cut these out, and I think for a nighttime spooky kind of scene, or even just a nighttime scene that you want to create, not just for Halloween, if you cut your trees out in black, if you've got something like an oxide, if you wanted to add a bit of brown or green so that you highlight them a bit, you could do that too. So I just think they work really well for that kind of time of year. So this is where the next problem came in. Right, so I taped with some washi tape my little, I don't know, the basket thing that goes on the back of the truck, so that it was at least in place. Then I tried to put a piece of tape there so I could get my pumpkin stuck on there, and that just came straight off the washi tape, so obviously that wasn't going to work. Then I managed to get my glue to work, so I put some glue on the back there. Turns out the pumpkins aren't long enough or big enough to go all the way down to that glue that I put there, so I didn't actually need it in the end. Anyway, so I then grabbed, when my glue again stopped working, I then grabbed some really thin, pretty strong tape and just added it to the middle, I guess little, like the middle run of wood, and that was fine. If I was sticking this flat to the card, I wouldn't have faffed with all this, because you could just add those things in as you layered each bit up. But because I actually want to pop this up on some foam, I needed to get them in the truck first. So yes, so didn't need that glue, did I? No. Anyway, the drama of making this card. But it works out really, really nice. And then I realised my spider on my pumpkin, you can't even see that anyway. So yeah, never mind. So like I say, I want to pop this up. So I'm putting these are just Stampin Dimensionals from Stampin' Up. Any foam, dot foam you can use. You can even use fun foam if you just stick it with some adhesive, wet adhesive, either side, and you'll be fine. But I got that all foamed up, so to speak. And I'm just going to stick this in place on the bottom part of the card. And I was really pleased at how the two of these work together. They're both, obviously the truck and the house are both from Honeybee, so they obviously work size wise, so they're in proportion. But I was really quite chuffed at how well I could get them to work on an A2 size card, because the card I'd done previously with the other half of the house was, I think, a 5x7 card or something, or card front. So I was really chuffed I could actually get it to work on an A2 size card. So for the sentiment, I've taken one from the Tiny Text Halloween Tim Holtz stamp set, In the Dead of Night. I know. And this is where Oxide does stay wet for longer. It's kind of like a pigment and a dyeing together, so I was being careful not to touch it while it was drying. But this is also where I am trying to let go of having to have straight lines, so I'm just cutting out my sentiment and just going with it. But it's Halloween, so it doesn't really matter if it's a bit squonk, right? so yeah. So while I let that dry for a little bit, I went back to that tiny Halloween stamp set from Lawn Form and found the bats in there, and they were perfect size wise for the background. I just needed something else in the background. I mean, more is more when it comes to Halloween, I think. And it worked perfectly, even overlapping them on the trees. They didn't totally stamp well, but because of the layer of cardstock from the tree, but it still worked fine. So I also dragged out some, this is, I think, what they call shaker card tape. So it's foam tape, but it's already thin enough to use this for like shaker cards. And I got this lot from Crafter's Companion ages ago, and I just cut a piece to go on the back of the sentiment, and then of course inked the edge of the sentiment as well, so it all coordinates and makes sense with the rest of the card. And then I was just trying to figure out where I wanted to stick the sentiment, and in the end I just went, that'll do, because it's just that kind of card. But I like where it's where it is anyway. And then again I went back to that stamp set and grabbed that spider again, because I thought the house needed something else. I still think the roof is a little on the bright side, although it all coordinates and everything. It's just like it really glows, which is nice, but I felt like maybe it needed something else, but I couldn't work it out. And I wasn't about to drag another stamp set out. I just wanted to keep it with the ones that I had out for this project. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope if you do have like leftovers of cardstock or die cuts or things that you have sort of prepped, like the house where I've got half a house still, see if you can find something else to do with it. It's a bit of a challenge, and this was as well, but I made it work, and I think you can too. In fact, I know you can too, because everybody can do this, right? That's my motto. Everybody can do this. So I hope you enjoyed this, guys, and have a spooky day. Bye.